Greetings, folks. Max is here to share with you another devastating tragedy. On Monday, August 11, 2008, 24-year-old dental hygienist Sarah Widmer was at her Fort Thomas, Kentucky, home with her 27-year-old husband, sports planner Ryan Widmer. Ryan had wrapped up his day at work, and Sarah had just ended her shift at the dental office. The couple, who had grown close after meeting through mutual friends, had a peaceful evening together. After barely 4 months of marriage, their relationship had grown from a blind encounter at a pub to the purchase of a property, marriage, and current state of newlywed joy. They were looking forward to their future together, which included a honeymoon in Costa Rica and a trip to Cancun. The most eagerly anticipated event was the possibility of obtaining a new puppy, which they were aggressively pursuing in tandem. On August 11th, Ryan and Sarah Widmer ate leftover hamburgers, corn on the cob, and cheesy potatoes while watching television. Ryan claims that they began with some of Sarah's favorite television programs before moving on to a football game. Then Sarah decided to take a bath in the master bedroom's bathroom. Ryan remembered that before he went upstairs with her, she had asked him to check the doors. He recalled her leaving for the upstairs after they had exchanged "I love yous." As she usually did, she tiptoed around. At 10:49 p.m., Ryan made a 911 call that evening. It was a 7-minute call. He reported to the 911 operator that his spouse had dozed off in their Marrow, Ohio bathtub. Ryan said to the operator, "My wife, she fell asleep in the bathtub. I think I was downstairs. I just came up here and she was laying face down in the bathtub." He said she was in the habit of falling asleep in the bathtub. Ryan took the initiative to pull Sarah out of the bathtub and was given instructions on how to perform CPR by the dispatcher. It took him around 29 seconds to empty the tub and raise Sarah, during which he momentarily put the phone down. Within 6 minutes of the 911 call, the cops arrived at his home and discovered Sarah nude on the bedroom floor. Her hair was wet, but her body felt warm and dry. The cops noticed a pinkish-white foamy discharge coming from Sarah's lips and nose as they were performing CPR, which was suggestive of drowning. Sarah was in the bedroom when paramedics arrived, and they tried twice but couldn't get her intubated. In the ensuing 10 minutes on the way to the hospital, 2 additional attempts were made in the ambulance. The hospital's ER doctor made 6 attempts at intubating the patient before finally succeeding on the 6th try. Sadly, it was too late, and Sarah was declared deceased that same evening. Ryan told the cops he and Sarah were alone at home that night when they were questioned at the hospital. He mentioned watching a football game on the TV downstairs as Sarah was taking a bath, sharing his worry that he had told the police he was worried she would pass out in the tub. Ryan stated that Sarah has a history of dozing off in strange places, but gave a negative response when asked if she had ever fallen asleep in the bathtub. Law enforcement became suspicious, even though Ryan told them he found Sarah in the bathtub and thought she had fallen asleep. When they got to the house, they saw that Sarah's hair was still wet, but her body was dry. Ryan's story seemed inconsistent to the detectives, especially regarding the 911 call in which he reported seeing Sarah face down in the bathtub. A possible inconsistency raised suspicions because it was thought that Ryan had reported to the hospital nurse that he had discovered her face up. Several inconsistencies that were discovered by police enforcement during the Widmer family's home search caused further worries. The towel on the floor, the restroom mat, and the floor itself were all dry. Only a few drips were visible near the drain, and the bathtub itself was largely dry. Remarkably, no damp towels were discovered within the residence. The authorities discovered more discrepancies in Ryan's story. Initially, Ryan told them he was downstairs watching a Cincinnati Bengals football game on TV while Sarah took a bath. Upon closer examination, it was discovered that the TV in the bedroom was tuned to the designated station, while the TV downstairs was not. When police arrived, they also found bloodstains on the bedroom carpet where Sarah had been found lying on the ground. These results increased doubts and added to the mounting list of contradictions in Ryan's version of what happened that evening. Sarah's autopsy was performed by Warren County Coroner Dr. Russell Updegrove. His research showed that Sarah's drowning was the cause of death. Faint bruising on the right side of her forehead, a peel hemorrhage on the inner surface of her eyelid, bruising on the left side of her neck, a contusion on the back of her neck, an abraz, iron on her left armpit, and bruising and lacerations to her upper lip were among the notable physical injuries noted during the examination. Sarah had contusions on her scalp and significant muscle hemorrhaging in the anterior region of her neck. Dr. Updegrove concluded that a homicide had caused Sarah's death. He stated that Sarah's injuries weren't consistent with those that are usually linked to CPR treatments, and they occurred before she passed away. The toxicology findings attested to Sarah's system's lack of alcohol or illegal substances. Amazingly, Ryan was charged with aggravated murder on August 13, 2008, just 2 days after Sarah passed away. The prosecution maintained that Sarah drowned and died as a result. They argued that the manner of Sarah's death was more debatable than the reason behind her demise. How did she end up drowning? The prosecution said that the evidence from Sarah's injuries, the crime scene, and the 911 call all pointed to Ryan as the person who killed her. The main point of contention between them was that she drowned in the bathtub because he had held her underwater against her will. While conducting their investigation, the police swept the bathtub to look for fingerprints and found what appeared to be human handprints, mostly in the center of the tub. They found finger and smear markings using reflected ultraviolet imaging and a superglue fuming procedure. In addition, a forearm impression was found on the bathtub. Testing of hair follicles revealed the impression was formed by an adult male, although the exact date of the impression's creation was unknown. The prosecution additionally argued that Ryan's account of events did not fit with the bathroom's lack of moisture. The bathroom floor and other furnishings should have been soaked if Sarah had drowned and Ryan had dragged her out of the tub. They made sure the jury knew that Sarah's body was dry when the police showed up, barely minutes after Ryan had made a 911 call. The prosecution cited specifics from the 911 call to support their claims that Ryan had given away too much information and was planning the call, implying some degree of premeditation. The jury was given a story by the prosecution that implied there was a violent altercation that fateful night in the Widmer home, albeit it was unclear why it happened. They called an expert witness to bolster their case, saying it was extremely unlikely that someone would fall asleep in a bathtub and drown if they weren't under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs. This evidence indicated that the usual way to wake someone asleep would be to feel water on their face or to activate their gag reflex. If that didn't work, a drop in oxygen would wake them up. The prosecution invited Coroner Updegrove, who performed Sarah's autopsy, to offer his professional view on what transpired that evening. He testified that pushing Sarah's head over the edge of the sink, bathtub, or toilet would be a reasonable explanation for her having wet hair and a dry body. This may have happened backward or forwards, in the middle of flowing water, or completely immersed. The prosecution's main contention was that Ryan intentionally submerged Sarah's head until she drowned. They centered their case on this claim, which called for Ryan's conviction for her murder. The defense retorted that there wasn't enough proof to back up the assertion that Ryan had killed Sarah. They highlighted the couple's seeming love for one another and maintained that Ryan had no apparent reason to hurt Sarah. The defense contended that anyone who knew Ryan had never seen him act angrily or become agitated. The couple's friends confirmed their happiness and agreed that they were preparing for a bright future together. The defense performed their own autopsy in order to bolster their case, most likely with the intention of refuting or offering a different viewpoint to the conclusions offered by the prosecution's witnesses, especially Coroner Updegrove. Dr. Werner Spitz, who had been hired by the defense, performed a second autopsy on August 15, 2008, 2 days after the first one. Though he agreed that drowning was Sarah's cause of death, Dr. Spitz disagreed, saying he would have classified Sarah's manner of death as unknown. He observed several injuries, including bleeding from her neck, upper lip, neck nape, scalp, and arms near the crease of her elbows. He also saw a rip in her liver. It was not possible for Dr. Spitz to conclude with certainty if CPR caused these injuries. As such, he declared that he would not classify her murderous demise. The prosecution had claimed that there was a violent altercation, but the defense contended that there would have been proof of it. The fact that Ryan's and Sarah's nails were intact or undamaged was particularly noteworthy. The defense also raised awareness of the female DNA that was discovered under Sarah's fingernails, which had no known matches. They argued that Sarah's injuries were probably caused by the prolonged CPR and several efforts at intubation that were performed that evening, inside the home, in the ambulance parked outside. The home, on the way to the hospital and at the hospital. The defense conjectured that Sarah's death might have been caused by a medical condition, such as a seizure or heart problem. They also proposed that skin dries faster than hair, which would explain the seemingly contradicting data of Sarah's wet hair and dry body. During the first trial, Ryan was found guilty of murder but not of aggravated murder by the jury. But after a few months, the defense voiced concerns, and a new trial was set for. It was found that a few jurors had tested how long it took them to dry off after taking a bath on their own, which would have affected how they interpreted the evidence. In May 2010, Ryan was put on trial a second time, but this time the jury was deadlocked, and the case was declared a mistrial. Ryan's third trial began in January 2011, bringing further evidence into the court case. The defense tried to establish evidence that Sarah might have had a neurological or cardiovascular ailment that went undiagnosed, which caused her to lose consciousness and drown in the bathtub. They included testimony to bolster this claim from a number of medical professionals who suggested that there might be an underlying medical problem. The state, however, disputed these claims by bringing in their own medical specialists to dispute and disprove the defense's accusations. Sarah's co-workers' testimonies added more detail on her everyday activities and health. They related stories about how Sarah would sometimes take naps in her car during her lunch breaks and would even sleep in it before heading into work in the morning. Additional information provided by colleagues indicated that she had allergies, headaches, and stomach aches. She had at least one headache, bad enough to make her eyesight blurry, forcing her to hide in a dark place until the pain passed. Dentist Dr. Benjamin Mesmer, who worked with Sarah at the business, testified that he was present on the day Sarah passed away. He remembered that on that specific day, she had complained of a stomach ache and headache. Sarah's friends' testimonies depicted her propensity to nod off in unexpected settings, like the middle of a group discussion or during a game. Her friends speculated that she might have narcolepsy, a sleep disease marked by excessive sleepiness, sleep paralysis, hallucinations, and occasionally cataplexy episodes, because the situation was so serious. On the other hand, Ruth N. Stewart, Sarah's mother, testified for the prosecution. Although Sarah did have headaches, she said she had never noticed anything strange about her daughter's sleeping habits. Ruth thought they probably stemmed from sinus problems. Ruth testified that she spoke with Sarah the day before she passed away, as Sarah was leaving for home from work, and Sarah mentioned nothing about a headache. Ruth stressed that there was no history of cardiac issues, heart illness, or seizures in the family. Sarah was born with a cleft palate and a heart murmur, although her heart murmur was not included in the physical test record from June 2008. Furthermore, the report had no mention of any illness, neurological condition, or heart condition. Jennifer Crew gave a noteworthy and possibly incriminating testimony. She claimed to have been in touch with Ryan when he was incarcerated after seeing a Dateline segment on his case. She said that at 11:06 p.m. on October 26, 2009, Ryan called her and admitted to killing Sarah. Jennifer stated that Ryan had a violent fight with Sarah in their living room, focused on concerns relating to his claimed infidelity, drinking, smoking, and interaction with pornography. Jennifer testified that Ryan screamed, I did it, I killed Sarah, I did it." After a supposedly heated disagreement, Sarah allegedly told Ryan their marriage was over upstairs. The evidence of Jennifer took a dark turn when she revealed Ryan's apparent admission of violence. Jennifer claimed that the confrontation grew physical and that Ryan said, "Nobody leaves me, nobody ever leaves me, and I mean nobody." Jennifer claims that Ryan admitted to hitting Sarah in the chest during their altercation, sending her flying and striking her head. After what Ryan claimed to be a blackout, he awoke to find Sarah on the floor, breathing heavily, unconscious, and with damp hair. Additionally, Jennifer claimed that at the time of the 911 call, Ryan knew that Sarah was already dead. Thus, resuscitation was pointless, so he just pretended to do CPR. After their first conversation, Jennifer and Ryan continued to talk despite this startling discovery. Not until Ryan's second trial resulted in a mistrial did she inform the authorities about the potentially incriminating exchange. The defense made an effort to discredit Jennifer after her testimony. To undermine her credibility and motivations, they provided proof of her prior battles with prescription drug addiction and convictions for minor theft. The defense posed a difficult case, claiming they were unable to provide a conclusive explanation for Sarah's drowning that evening. The defense underlined that Ryan had no obvious motive to harm Sarah and asked the jury to take into account all the relevant circumstances. Ryan was subsequently found guilty of murder and given a sentence ranging from 15 years to life in prison, notwithstanding these arguments. It's interesting to note that a juror from the third trial cited Ryan's actions in court as a major reason for their guilty decision. One juror pointed out that Ryan did not react when the autopsy images were shown in court, implying that his lack of emotion affected the jury's conclusion that he was guilty. How do you feel about this narrative? Post your thoughts in the comments section. We appreciate you being here and for watching. Look after your loved ones and yourself.